So you got a little more time? What's that, Emma? Yeah.
Well, he doesn't allow us to give thought to what he's saying. We're just sort of taking it in and it's true
Yes.
because he just keeps going and going and going.
That's the way his writing is.
But your writing, we can stop.
Yes.
Yeah, I found his writing really, really good.
Yeah. Once you get used to it, once you get used to his writing, you can understand. You start picking up these little nuggets. I mean, I've heard this thing over and over and over now. I'm ready for chapter 2. But, I was thinking about this, that, well, I have a slide here for it, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but Ernest Holmes stated that he had read every book that Troward had written because they are fundamental books. And everyone in our field should understand them because I would say 25% of our philosophy came from Troward. William James characterized Troward's work as far and away the ablest statement of the philosophy I have met. Beautiful in its sustained clearness of thought and style. A really classic statement. The average American, unless a deep student, is apt to think of Mr. Troward's writing as a bit wordy and heavy. I have heard others, however, speak of their simplicity. These writings came from the pen of Mr. Troward when the century was very young and there was a more Spencerian style of writing, which was writing that was practiced with meticulous care and detail. And I looked it up. Edmund Spenser was a poet at the end of the reign of Queen Elizabeth I in the 1500s. And he was really good at being flowery and going on and writing beautifully. I mean, the script was beautiful. And I got to thinking, why would this be in the 1800s? But I discovered they had a renaissance in the 1800s of speaking, talking, and writing in beautiful penmanship. And I thought, well, I guess that's okay. But then when I thought, if I actually wrote something like that, back then I would have had to use a quill and dip it in the ink. And I'd write a little bit, and then stop in my thought, stick it in the ink, and pick up my thought. And that's probably where a comma went. You know, every time he dipped it in the inkwell. I don't know if that's true, but yeah. And then somewhere he'd put a dot, a period. But the logical and convincing nature of his books caused him to be looked upon as the authority on the science of mind. Mr. Troward was accustomed to making court decisions with legalistic and judicial care. In his books, he makes point after point and leaves no subject until it is most thoroughly threshed out, as you found out. Dr. Holmes said, Dr. Holmes, when he talked, he used homely illustrations and shorter sentences. He presented the Troward philosophy so that he who runs may read. You could speed read through Holmes, but certainly not with Troward. So as I said before, his second book was Bible Mystery and Bible Meaning, and it was based upon his entire life of reading the Bible every day and his development of his philosophy and metaphysics and looking for the meaning behind words and phrases in the Bible. And I was blown away when I started reading some of this, and I really recommend that you read it. And I think the bookstore has some. Maybe. Oh, okay. Yes, that's a great place to go. So you don't have to buy them. You just download them. And then he went on to write his door lectures. They were, in a way, I believe, more detailed, but more, there were like 12 principles and things that he condensed it into to a degree.
What does door mean? D-O-R-E?
Well, there's a place, I found out there's several places, some in London, or around London, and in Scotland. So I'm not certain which one he went to give the lectures. Some of his thoughts I thought were pretty good. Having seen and felt the end, you have willed the means to the realization of the end. But it all comes from a thought to get to the end of where you want to go. Belief in limitation is the one and only thing that causes limitation. If you don't want to be limited, then don't think about it. This is one of my favorites because I love to eat. God will provide the food, but he will not cook the dinner. And it's up to you to decide whether it's going to be filet mignon or a hot dog. So choose wisely. When you're drawing from the infinite, you can never take more than your share. Now, when I first read that, I thought, well, that's no fair. I want more. And then I realized, first of all, the infinite will never run out. It has more than enough for everybody. It depends on the size of my cup. If it's a little teacup or it's a big beer mug, I can scoop up everything that I want. That's the share. My share is what I decide, what I choose to withdraw out of life and spirit. This talks about evil. If we look upon evil as a force to be reckoned with, and therefore requiring to be studied, we are in effect creating it. Well, on the other hand, if we realize that there is only one force to be considered, and that absolutely good force, we are by the law of the creative process bringing that good into manifestation. So we are the ones who manifest evil or good, love. Thought creates form, but it is feeling that gives vitality to thought. And that is so true. I mean, at one time in my life, I wanted a car. I didn't care what it was. And I saw an old beat-up Volkswagen that was rusty and it had holes in the floor. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't care. I just need something to be mobile. And then one day I saw a bright red convertible sports car. And I imagined myself sitting in it, and I could feel the leather on the steering wheel and the top down and the wind blowing through my hair with my sunglasses. And I could feel the power, and I could see the girls looking at me. And I had feeling. And guess what? I got the sports car. And I got the girl. It's true, my first wife. So, when you want something, put some feeling. Troward says, the law of flotation was not discovered by contemplating the sinking of things, but by contemplating the floating of things, which floated naturally, and then intelligently asking why they did so. So, as you get into more of the training, and we went over it in class, and I still get it confused, deductive and inductive reasoning, critical thinking and all of this, but that's what we use to understand these ideas and to learn about the world. And this is a little shorter thing on that. The law of flotation was not discovered by studying the sinking of things.
So was that more on focusing on the solution and not the... I'm sorry. So is that more about focusing on the solution and the problems?
Well, thinking about maybe what has been manifest, and then determining where the cause came from, originated from. I mean, the first guy that decided to dig out the center of a log found out he could float around in it, and that was a thought. He wasn't thinking about how I make something float. But then, of course, when it filled up with water, he could think about why did it sink with him in it. We can gradually grow into any condition we desire, provided we first make ourselves in habitual mental attitude the person who corresponds to those conditions. I mean, you have to see yourself as being the person you want to become. And you have to do it with feeling. In that red car with all the chicks. Our repeated failure to fully act as we would wish must not discourage us. It is a sincere intention that is the essential thing. And this will, in time, release us from the bondage of habits, which at present seem almost inseparable. It's the intention. And Ernest Holmes speaks to this. Troward has something more to say about that, but the subjective mind is entirely under the control of the objective mind. Our consciousness, our awareness speaks the thoughts we have into the subconscious, which is really what we call the law, where it's indifferent as to who we are, really. It doesn't judge us or whether what you want. It doesn't care. It just provides the mold, which you will fill up with what you want. But anyway, the subjective mind is entirely under the control of our objective mind. With the utmost fidelity, it reproduces and works out to its final consequences whatever the objective mind impresses upon it. The way I envision this sometimes is if you had a big lump of clay and you were out whittling on a stick and you made a fancy design on the end of the stick and you jam it down into the clay, pull it out, and there's a form or a mold in the subconscious. And the subconscious then pours the gold into it. And out pops the form of your beautiful gold design. We cannot really think in one way and act in another. That is so true. And how many people do we know, including myself, who has tried to put on a happy face when I don't feel happy, or try to impress somebody, like the girls that are looking at me in the car, when really I'm a quivering bowl of jelly, single guy, afraid to ask them if they want to ride. But it's so true. How we think of ourselves is really who we really are. If you think positively, then your outlook on life also becomes positive. Desire will in due time externalize itself as a concrete fact. It is an enduring truth which can never be altered, that every infraction of the law of nature must carry its punitive consequences with it. We can never get beyond that range of cause and effect. So when you think about this, everything we do, somebody, the priest or the minister or whoever, is not going to say, shame on you, you shouldn't have done that. You're going to go to hell and you are going to pay for it. No, the minute you do it, you're paying for it. Because it's inherent in the thing that you did. Because, say you're a thief, you steal something. You think, hey, I got away with it. No, you didn't get away with it. Because your psyche has been altered as to the character of who you just have become. And you will pay for it right then and there. Because the effects you will have coming result from what you just did. So it's really true. We live in this realm right now, which is heaven on earth and hell on earth at the same time, only based upon our thought and our actions. You can't get away. So this is just a picture of some of his other books, and some of these books incorporate the other books. So I'd say go ahead and get the ones that have all the books. And this is my favorite by far to start out, and the image that I came up with is not good. But it's called Thomas Troward, an intimate memoir of the teacher and the man. And this is the book. Short, talks very legibly, easy to understand, all kinds of good stuff. And this is Rita's. She lent it to me, so I can't keep it. And you better not steal it. But I think we may be getting these in the bookstore. But it's a really good introduction into the rest of the Troward books. Troward said, yourself, and yet more yourself is what you want. Only with the knowledge that the true self includes the inner and higher self, which is always in immediate touch with the great divine mind. And when I read this, it reminds me of when we go into meditation in service. We ask you to close your eyes and go within. And that's the inner space where we feel we really are. And we're there where spirit always resides. And we are in touch. We cannot not touch it. It's us. We are it. We are the great divine mind. And it's there for us to use. And through our thinking, we produce the lives that we want. We manifest. Because spirit is always with us. So become yourself. And more self. Ernest Holmes discovered Troward's work in 1914, 2 years after Troward died. No. Well, before. Yes. Thank you. You were reading right and I wasn't. But I know that Holmes would have loved to have met him and talked with him. But Ernest Holmes said, this is as near to my own thoughts as I shall ever come. And it's due to Holmes, really, that Troward became well known. Holmes began speaking on Troward's writing to growing groups when he was only 25. Without realizing his lifetime ministry had just begun. He totally absorbed Troward's ideas and deeply linked them with his own thinking. Holmes was one of the main channels through which Troward's ideas reached American circles. And Holmes was in California. And as the words of Troward got released on the public, they were coming out in the Chinese theater in, is it Hollywood? And many other big auditoriums. Now, Ernest Holmes did not want to have a church. It was the furthest thing from his mind. He wanted just to impart the knowledge to people. So he wanted to go to these big places and just say, this is what I know, this is what I learned. You don't have to think anything about me. I'm just the guy talking to you. But the people he was talking to, as it went on and on, they said, no, you got to start a church. And that's really how we started in California. But these were going on in New York and various other large cities across the United States. So here's Thomas Troward, 1847, 1916. He did all of this, a judge, writing all of these things, lecturing, writing his books, 69 years. End of story. But I'm not finished because I have homework. I want you to write what you heard, word for word. But actually, Charles, would you mind passing these out? There are 58 things here. There are 58 things here. And I want you to read them. You'll enjoy them. And they should, when put to use, will make a difference for you. And these, by the way, are in the back of this tiny little book. So I'm not going to read them all to you. And if there's not enough, I got some more up here. And
That, can I have a question on
yes,
that statement, yourself, more yourself, more yourself, and more yourself?
yes,
Where's that located
on the internet.
at? On the, you can type it in and find that statement.
Yes, you can. And I don't know exactly where it was in his writing, in what books, but it really speaks to me. A lot of his stuff is fabulous. But, so I hope you've learned some things. I certainly have. What I was telling Patrick earlier, it was astounding to me to know now, to learn how much more the teacher learns in trying to teach somebody else. And now I love Troward. I wasn't so sure when I first started. But I invite you now to go and have some coffee, water, cookies, and out to the restroom if you like. But I would like to finish with a closing here. So just go within. For what I know, Spirit has been here with us tonight in many wonderful ways. I know that's true for me, and I hope for the other people here, that from the past, the words have come to enrich all of our lives so that we can have more and more of ourselves. We can evolve higher and higher, and we can learn to further have manifestations from the things that we think. The law of cause and effect is always, always operating, whether we want it to or not. So what I know tonight is that great things are coming on the way. They're here right now. And I'm so thankful for everybody showing up, including Thomas. And so I release my word into the law that always says yes, always manifests, as we say together, and so it is.
So it is. I have a few announcements before you guys leave because Rita forgot them in the beginning. Thank you, first of all, Rob. This is Rob's first time out on the deck here, so I mean, congratulations. Congratulations.
See on the boat when I first started.
You know what? It's just that, you went swimming, man. That's all that matters. A couple things. Saturday, that keeps getting forgotten. Speaking of practitioners, we have Stephanie and Michelle who can be here tonight from 10:30 to 12. This is their final project, and it's called Science of Mind Saturday. You guys remember that, don't you? And so this is their final project before they go into their testing and all of their stuff. So it's very exciting. It'll be this Saturday from 10:30 to 12. Sunday, we'll have big celebrations. Not only are we celebrating April birthdays, but we're celebrating Reverend Patrick's 60th birthday that's coming up, and May 2nd. So we're going to have a big shindig, potluck, something new on Kauai. But also, there's a little special Rita thing happening too. She's making her famous lasagna. And so that's coming out. And I said, like, for everybody, lasagna? Big, yeah. So good luck the next couple days. And then also, Rita's going to sing us. I'll be one of the singers on Sunday too. So we're having just a whole bunch of stuff. Sunday's a big day, but as far as these events, the next one will be at the end of May, and that's with Michelle LeMay doing Louise Hay, which is fun, and we'll get some books. That book I never tire of that book. And then in June, Reverend Diane is doing the Fillmores. Is that correct? Yes, Myrtle and Charles. So we have a whole bunch of great things coming up. So I just want to make sure that you remember that, especially You can say that. You can say that loud. Oh, and then the donation basket is always out for us to make sure that these things continue to happen. So there you go. Good night. Don't forget, Sunday, Saturday, something always happens. Next week, we're actually taking off. Very much. Put this